Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes for everybody to get in here, and then we'll get started. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our second webinar in our summer webinar series. Today's webinar is all about academic resources, just a few of them that are available to you as new incoming students. This is not exhaustive. There are far more resources than you'll hear about today. But we just want to give you a little peek on these resources. The majority of this webinar will be led by our beautiful campus partners here today. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. So there is the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to put questions in there as we're going through the webinar if anything comes up for you. And we will do our best to answer all of our questions. Some of them we may answer right there within the question box as we're going along, especially if it's a super specific question. And some of those we will answer out loud at the end for everybody to hear. And you can see the answers to all of the questions that we answer throughout as well. And so with that, we will go ahead and kick things off, and I will pass it over to Danielle with Student Disability Services.
Hi everyone. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can we see my screen okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, it's wonderful to see so many folks out here today. My name is Danielle Plung-Rubin. I work with Student Disability Services here at the University of Chicago. And I'm also an alum of the college as well. So University of Chicago has been a part of my academic and professional life for some time, and I'm very happy to talk a little bit about what one of the resources we have here on campus today. I'm the coordinator of disability training programs and communications with Student Disability Services. So a lot of my job is connecting with folks across campus, and helping folks understand how we can be a good resource, and helping folks get connected with our office, if that is something that is of use or helpful. So very excited to talk about that today. Before I dive in, just want to remind folks, if it is something that is useful to you, Zoom have closed captioning features as an accessibility tool. So feel free to turn those on. I use those excuse me, in many Zoom meetings, and the folks running this meeting have enabled that. So certainly don't hesitate if that's something that you need. So just to dive in here, I wanted to introduce a number of folks in our office, primarily our directors. Dr. Sharnessa Warren is the director of our whole office, and then we have a deputy director as well as associate and assistant directors. And we do have a few other wonderful staff members in our office as well. But I like to just focus on these individuals because, as a student, if you are applying for accommodations or engaging with our office, these will likely be the directors, likely be the first line of contact, and the folks sort of who help guide you through that process and help you get set up with those accommodations and sort of be your point person in our office. They're all wonderful, knowledgeable individuals, really well versed in a lot of disability related topics and accommodations. And then, depending on what your accommodation needs might be, there might be a few other folks in our office as well that work with you on implementing some of those things. But these will really be the first folks and the primary folks that students engage with in our office. And then I included myself as well because I'm here and this is who I am. And so the first thing I want to say is that the stance that we as a university take at UChicago, but particularly in the Student Disability Services Office, is that we believe disability is a valued form of diversity, both in general in the world, and also on our campus. And so everything that we do, and we do a lot of things that are sort of rooted in specific laws and making sure we're aligned with specific laws and things like that. Everything we do underneath all of that is really rooted in this value, right? And that we see ourselves as one of the offices on campus that really makes sure that our campus is accessible to folks so that we can continue to be the diverse campus in all of the facets of diversity that we are. And folks on our campus, students on our campus, engage with our office. About 14% of students on campus are registered with us. That's about 1 in 7 students. Right. So, I think some students are a little bit nervous in connecting with our office. They sort of think that they'll be an outlier, they'll be alone, right? That they're sort of be an anomaly. And really, many students are engaged with us. Students who are engaged with us are not an anomaly. There's a lot of them on our campus, across undergraduate and graduate divisions as well. And so, in a minute, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the legal framework behind disability accommodations here and also, in higher ed in general. But this, I think, just really speaks to what I was saying before this quote. The laws that we are talking about are here to make sure that people with disabilities have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. And that Chicago, really embraces its responsibility to provide those accommodations, and to create the diverse community that we have. And SDS is sort of the conduit to allow that to happen from the perspective of disability. So what laws are we talking about here? Unlike in high school settings, the laws that we're talking about are primarily civil rights laws, right, as opposed to educational laws, particularly. So the two big laws that we think of, the legislation we think of, are the Americans with Disabilities Act, which states that institutions must provide full and equal access to folks with disabilities, and that accommodations must be equally effective as sort of the program would be without the accommodations as well. And then the other law is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which prohibits excluding from participation or benefits, and also prohibits discrimination. A to facilitate that equal access. And just to define our terms a little bit, when I was a student in the writing center at UChicago, right, I was always told define your terms, so I try and make sure that I do that here too. Um, a qualified individual is somebody who's capable of fulfilling essential elements of the program, with or without accommodations, right? So someone who wouldn't be qualified to be at the University of Chicago with or without accommodations, right, would not be someone we'd provide accommodations for because they wouldn't be here. But if you are qualified to be at the University of Chicago or qualified to be in a certain program, with or without accommodations, we will provide those accommodations that you're eligible for. And when we talk about disability, we're talking about an impairment that substantially limits a major life activity, right? So we're not talking about the diagnosis in and of itself, right? Because if you have a diagnosis, right, let's say somebody uses a wheelchair, but they're in an environment where there's already ramps and there's elevators, right? And all the doors are ADA accessible. That person wouldn't necessarily need a special accommodation in that setting because there's, everything is built such that it's already designed for them in mind, right? And so there's no special accommodation needed, right? So when we're talking about disability here, we're talking about someone who has an impairment that is limiting one of their major life activities, right? And major life activities could be anything, could be walking, standing, lifting, bodily functions, right? Going to the bathroom, eating, seeing, hearing, thinking, right? And then it also, for students, reading, writing, attention, being in the classroom, right? Anything like that could qualify as a major life activity. And then an accommodation is an adjustment or modification that really bridges the gap um, to allow equal access while maintaining the essential components of the program, right? So we want to make sure when we're putting accommodations in place, right, that we're not doing anything that's going to give an unequal experience to a student with an accommodation, right? We want to make sure that the students who have the accommodations get the same information, the same knowledge, the same key experience as their non-disabled peers or as their peers that don't have that accommodation. And so, certain situations where we wouldn't approve an accommodation, right, is if it's of a personal nature, right? This is not to say that if somebody needs a wheelchair or a hearing aid or anything like that, they wouldn't be allowed to have it. Of course, they would be allowed to have it, but it wouldn't necessarily be provided as an accommodation from the university. Of course, if someone had a wheelchair or a hearing aid, they'd be certainly welcome to bring that to their classes and wherever they needed to go. And if folks need help getting connected with resources to acquire those sorts of mobility tools, SDS can help put you in touch with the right people. But we don't necessarily have like a stockpile of wheelchairs. But happy to help folks get connected. And then again, we wouldn't approve accommodations to alter the elements of the course, right, or a program because we want to make sure students who are having the accommodations have the same fundamental experience that their non-disabled peers do, just with whatever accommodations and supports that they need. And then, if there's anything that would create undue hardship or, be a danger to someone else in the class, it's hard to sort of think of an example of something like that, right? But in those sorts of situations, we would maybe have a conversation about what an alternative accommodation might be that would be feasible. And then, importantly, the accommodation has to support or align with what the access need actually is. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But before I dive into that, I do just want to point out where we actually are located on campus. Um, our main office is at 5501 South Ellis, which is actually in the first floor of the North Campus parking garage. I included this picture here because it can be a little bit difficult to find us sometimes. There's an arrow to the door. If you're familiar with campus at all, we are right across from Ratner Athletic Center, next to Max Pilevsky Residential Hall. We are available remotely via Zoom or telephone. And then we do in-person appointments, but they have to be by appointment. During our summer hours, we are open a little bit, abbreviated hours, but during the school year, we're open 8:30 to 5. And then our testing center, is on, South Campus as well. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about our process and our interactive process. SDS engages with students in an interactive process, right? So when we're putting accommodations in place, we're not putting accommodations in place, for instance, for ADHD in general. We're putting accommodations in place for a student's specific ADHD, right? So things show up differently, diagnoses show up differently for different people, right? So when we're putting accommodations in place, we want to make sure that what's appropriate for the student is what is actually what we're putting in place, right? So it's on the student first to reach out to us, and then our office will work with you interactively to sort of determine what the best course of accommodations might be. And this is where our directors are really experts in sort of talking through students' experiences, and sort of the experience in the classroom, what folks' barriers have been in the past, what difficulties you've had, what successes you've had, and putting in place an accommodation plan. But something that I will note that can be a little bit different from a high school environment is that the student does have to reach out first, right? We don't, unlike a guidance counselor who maybe gets a list of all students who are eligible for accommodations, we don't have any way of knowing that you're eligible for accommodations or that you might be eligible for accommodations unless you reach out to us. So please reach out to us first, and I'll explain how to do that in a moment so we can start this interactive process. So the first step in that process is to submit a request form on our website, and I'll show you how to do that. And if you have documentation for any non-obvious disability, to go ahead and submit that. Our directors will take a look and provide an accommodation determination after they meet with you. Um, then we will send a notification to you, right? Your accommodation determination letter. You then have the opportunity to select which of your professors you would like to send that letter to. That letter does not say what your diagnosis is. It just says what accommodations you're eligible for. And then every quarter, you have the opportunity to select which accommodations or which professors you would like to notify of your accommodations. And then we work with them to make sure the accommodations are implemented in your classroom or in your academic program. And then this can be an ongoing process, right? Sometimes students find that there are certain accommodations that they don't know that they need until they take a certain class, right? So you can always re-engage in parts of the academic interactive process for us to re-engage in accommodations. The process does take 1 to 2 weeks, right? And then a little bit more at peak times, right? So if you know that you're going to need accommodations, I would really encourage folks to apply, as soon as you think the need might be there, so that we can start that accommodation process. And then, here are just some examples of types of disabilities. And I just include this because sometimes there's folks who don't necessarily realize that certain diagnoses might qualify them for accommodations in certain circumstances. So I just like to provide this list. Non-exhaustive, right? There's many other categories, diagnoses that could qualify someone for accommodations. These are just some examples of student disabilities that we see quite frequently. And then again, here are just some examples of accommodations that we see quite a lot and we offer quite a lot. For instance, time and a half, extra time on tests, reduced distraction environments, different note-taking assistance, document conversion, right? If folks need different alternative technologies, assistive technologies to access course materials, interpreters or captioning, parking and transportation, if there are any facilities barriers. And then there might be some more complex accommodations we'll work through as well, like flexible attendance or accessible lab and course content. And then I do just want to point out our website here. This is a great resource, disabilities.uchicago.edu, that really allows for you to find a lot of great resources. And I do just want to point out, particularly if you want to register for accommodations, apply for accommodations, like I mentioned earlier, how to do that. You want to go to the Students tab, click on Registering with SDS, and then you'll see this page. And then there's this button right here that you can click on, and it'll take you to a form to fill out your initial accommodation request. And then somebody in our office will reach out to schedule an intake meeting with you, and begin that interactive process. So if you do have any questions, do feel free to pop them in the Q&A. I will take a look at that, and answer them later on in this presentation. And then I would love to go ahead and pass the baton over to my colleague Alyssa.
Great. Thank you so much, Danielle. I'll go ahead and share my screen and um, my PowerPoint. So I think our presentations are going to be very complementary. So just confirming you can see the presenter view of this intro to coaching
Yes.
presentation. Thanks. Thank you. And JB, thanks for the thumbs up. So next, I'd like to provide a brief overview of a fairly new service offered to undergraduate students in the college called Academic Coaching. We were established last year. And then another service that's sort of the flip of it, which is peer tutoring. So let's dive in. So I have a brief agenda for today, just so you can see where we're headed. We'll do some quick introductions. Go over academic coaching, what it looks like to work with us, and then also some of the workshops we provide, and then some similar information, but for our Core Tutors program. So to start with introductions, my name is Alyssa Braylauer. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Support Services in the college. I've worked at UChicago since 2021, and my own academic background is in the humanities and social sciences. And then next, I will actually turn it over to one of our academic coaches, Doreen Cabrera.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Doreen Cabrera. I am the Academic Support Specialist in the Biological and Physical Sciences. So I provide one of the academic coaching. I'm one of the ones that provides academic coaching services. I have been at the University of Chicago just shy of a year, so it'll be a year next week. And so I was brought on specifically to help build this new resource in the college. Broadly speaking, my background is in the biological sciences. I have a PhD in biology. My research focus is on behavioral ecology and evolution. And I'll pass it over to JB.
Everybody, I'm Jean-Baptiste. I go by JB. I am the academic support specialist for the arts, humanities, and social sciences. Just like Doreen, I am closing in on my first year here, and my background is spread across the arts, humanities, and social sciences. I've worked in education and student support, but my academic background is coming from creative writing, education, and neuroscience.
Great. Thank you both so much. And then, Doreen, if you want to add the kind of 4 questions newsletter link into the Q&A, that might make it possible.
I dropped it into the chat.
I think only the hosts can see that, or panelists.
Oh, perfect.
But thank you so much. So as a new team, Doreen and JB were recently featured on our college newsletter. So if you'd like to hear a little bit more in depth about their academic backgrounds, their interests, their approach to coaching, I highly encourage you all to take a look at that. So let's see. So next, I'll talk a little bit about academic coaching. These are 2 words that you've probably, have a good sense of what they mean, but together they provide a kind of unique service that really focuses on what's sometimes called co-curricular support, where we're kind of helping students understand not just what to learn, but really what are the successful strategies for how to learn. And this can, serve multiple purposes. We work with students to successfully transition into the college as incoming first-year transfer students. So acclimating to the academic expectations of higher education, develop new habits of mind. So that might mean new study skills, new ways of moving through like course assignments, academic stress, and different ways of problem solving. So maybe you haven't necessarily had to use tutoring in the past, or really meet with professors one-on-one outside of your classroom in previous settings. But here, it might be worth trying something new, like going to office hours or creating a study group. So we're here to, again, kind of coach you through the process of learning. We can also help with things related to executive functioning. So we do collaborate with Student Disability Services, as well as the writing program, who you'll hear from shortly, to kind of think about different strategies, or strategies that might work in one class, you might actually need a different approach in another course. As well as, how do you balance academic commitments with, goals to find an on-campus job or join a student organization or look for an internship. We also offer practical, skills-based workshops on things like how to study for exams, and then also how to set goals, and also, again, this persistence piece. So how do you, what kind of schedule works for you to ensure that you don't burn out, at the end of 2 years or something like that? Or how do we make sure you're taking care of yourself at the same time that you're also engaging in your classes and, continuing to achieve your goals? So the benefits of academic coaching largely are, some students come in with a really clear goal of wanting to improve their grades, improve their GPA, but also, again, it's kind of a space that really is in the service of students. These are student-led conversations. So if you come to us and say, I'm up till 3 a.m. working on a PSET, can we, how can we work together so that I start submitting things a little bit earlier? We can talk about organization and time management. We also teach students about about approaches to active studying, so how your study sessions can be more impactful and more efficient. We also love to reflect with students and kind of think about your journey through the college, and also the ways that you, as your identity as a learner, has shifted, expanded, and grown as a result of not just the classes that you're in, but also through these co-curricular opportunities. We also really encourage or like to think about ways that students might kind of break out of these identities, or maybe self labels as, not a STEM person, or, not a reader. One of the things about the core at UChicago, as many of you know, and is one of the draws, is a really strong interdisciplinary education. And that means really knowing and thinking about how to make connections between the work you're doing in your biology core alongside your humanities. What are the kind of larger skills that, even though the content and subjects might be so different, are there strategies that can help you perform strongly in both, and kind of that academic dexterity? So this is a long slide. I won't read through all of it, but these are some of the other topics. So you can see we really work diversely with students, whether it's a specific exam in a specific course or an assignment, but also if there are skills that you would like to work on, as for example, how to engage meaningfully in class. So maybe your course has a significant participation grade, and you want to learn how to, how to kind of start to understand what are the types of responses or types of engagement that faculty are looking for in their classes. Similarly, how to make the most of office hours, how to contact and connect with your professors. So it really runs the spectrum, but those are just some ideas of ways you might engage with us. So we offer appointments in person and remotely. Let's see. And but as I note here, ideally your first meeting with us would be in person. Just, I think, in it often kind of helps remove some barriers, and we can often in our meetings tend to be very active, where we're asking you to pull up your course materials. Let's look at your schedule. And so there's something nice I think about being in person for that first meeting, is we're getting to know each other, because it is, again, a one-on-one relationship that we're hoping to build with you all. I also have a map later in our presentation, but we are located on the main quad in Stuart Hall on the 3rd floor. So if you are lost, or if you're not super familiar with campus just yet, we can connect via email ahead of a meeting to make sure that you can find us and know where to go. And then our initial meetings are roughly 40 minutes and kind of go over what is your academic journey so far, what are the things you're interested in working on and building together. So I think the first quarter of college is a great time to meet with us to talk through when are you going to schedule your time to study? How are you going to juggle, joining or trying out a bunch of student organizations, as well as, your calculus class, and then humanities. How do you create a study group? I know I mentioned that before. So there's really no wrong time to engage with us as students. And here is a little bit more granular. So we also do have our link for academic coaching on the college scheduling website, which is also where you book with academic advising. If you scroll down onto the college scheduling page, there is a link that says book an academic coaching that incoming first year students can begin meeting with an academic coach in September. Some of this is because it'll be helpful to kind of have a sense of your schedule or the classes, your placements. But of course, if you're really eager and enthusiastic about working with us, you can always reach out to us via email earlier with some initial questions, and we'd be happy to connect with you. And then transfer students can begin meeting with us in mid-August. And this is also great if you are taking the summer humanities classes or the inquiry, conversation, argument. So we're also there to help provide support while you're actually taking these earlier summer classes before autumn quarter starts. The last component of academic coaching that I'd like to highlight are just things, again, to look forward to for autumn quarter. We also offer small group workshops. If you are a little uncertain about, an hour-long meeting with one of us right in your first week of the quarter, I think a great way to engage with us is by attending one of our workshops. So we tend to hold roughly like 4 different group events, and ideally expanding it. Although, as you can see, we're a pretty small team, but small but mighty. So at the beginning of the year, we will have a sort of like strong start to the quarter workshop that I hope you can all join us for. But we also address topics like time management, pacing in a 9-week quarter, creating a study schedule that works for you. Again, sort of global advice for how to break down assignments or study for exams, how to prepare for finals, and then that academic resilience piece and managing burnout. So as you can see, a lot of the topics that we introduce in the workshops really do mirror what we will work with you individually on. But the benefit, I think, of the individual appointments in relation to workshops is that it can be a lot more individualized, and also give, again, you space to sort of drive the meeting, drive the conversation, ensure that you're getting the kind of skill support that you are looking for. Whereas the workshops, I think, really are kind of an introduction to these topics and some holistic skills that you might want to learn about or think about. So the next section that I have is about another program that I oversee, which is our peer tutoring or student tutoring program, which is the College Core Tutors. So unlike academic coaching, where you are working one-on-one with professional staff with backgrounds in education and there's an expertise in particular disciplines, the core tutors are a great resource because they are undergraduate students who provide sort of on-demand or drop-in support for specific courses. Core tutors are primarily for now scientific quantitative courses, and I will show you a list of what those are. And they kind of act as a complement to the writing tutors who you will hear about in a little bit. And the benefit of the core tutors, when you think about kind of your class structure, is that it's, again, intended to be a very low stakes environment for you to review and seek help with homework, specific problem sets, or break down course concepts. A lot of studies show also that there are a lot of proven benefits and enrichment to your learning by working with students, as opposed to only working with your faculty, people who are grading you, even professional staff like us, because students have been there more recently than we have. And they can also give you some insights into some of the architecture of the class, some of the nuances. So for example, like within STEM courses, remember your significant figures, double check your math, things that maybe they've gone through already when they took their first exam, so that they can pass that down to you. Tutors right now are also in the evening from 6 to 10 p.m. So again, if we're thinking about what a class schedule might be like, you could go to the dining hall at 6 and have dinner and be at the core tutors at 7, work on your PSET till 9 and get a good night's sleep, call your parents, text your friends. And it would be, so really, I hope you can start to see that the work we do in academic coaching is really thinking about holistically how, what a sustainable academic life looks like. And that does involve peer tutors. So as I mentioned, core tutors is also a little different because it is linked to specific courses that you will be enrolled in each quarter. Whereas again, academic support or academic coaching is holistic. You can be in any classes, you can be in any year of the college, it could be the summer. Whereas core tutoring, it's sort of like while you're in your first chemistry sequence, or when you're taking Econ 100, which is principles of microeconomics, when you're taking stat. And as I note below, these class supports will make a little bit more sense once you have your placements and kind of have an idea of what your schedule is going to be, or what sequences and when you're going to take them. So if you have any preemptive questions about that, though, again, you can always email us or put your questions in the chat regarding core tutor support. But in order to do this, we work alongside departments to, identify core tutors. So this kind of takes us to the next step. So who are the core tutors? How do you work with them? So core tutors themselves are upper class undergraduates in the college who are exceptionally, have exceptional academic records in the subject areas that they tutor. So they're often third and fourth year physics students, physics and math majors, economics majors. But they're also wonderful teachers and mentors. So we kind of approaching this growth mindset where really encouraging them to walk students through how to solve a problem or how to think through a complex course concept. And with this in mind, core tutors they're not going to just give you the answers, but they're going to walk you through the process, which I will admit can be a little bit frustrating. There's some friction to it of how to do the work yourself. So again, they're also aligned in this goal of developing your academic skill set. And so just as a brief kind of compare and contrast of the two resources, they're complementary. Core tutoring is drop-in in the evening. Academic coaching is during the days by appointment. Core tutoring runs during the academic year when the classes are in session. Academic coaching is available year-round. Undergraduate peers versus academic specialist staff. Course-specific support as compared to overall holistic metacognitive development or becoming a self-regulated learner. Same-day help versus, for academic coaching, you can certainly meet with us just once, and that's completely fine. But we do find developing relationships where we meet maybe 2 or 3 times throughout a quarter can be really helpful for that accountability piece that we're also here to offer support for. So as I mentioned, here's this map that JB made of how to find us. So if this is the Harper building, here's 59th. If you go up to the third floor, this corridor, you'll find a reading room that has where the academic coaches sit, core tutoring, and then also the writing center is over there. We can share this again, but I will leave this up just for a second so you have our names, emails. We can also put this in the Q&A if you just want to copy it down. This is also recorded, but otherwise I will turn it over to Crystal to talk a little bit about the writing program. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. We're going to put up a picture of the writing program website. And if you are on your laptop as you're doing this and you're interested, I encourage you to just go to the website and poke around as I'm talking so that you're able to kind of get a sense in real time of what I'm talking about. And then I also encourage you throughout my presentation, do put any questions that you have in the Q&A, and I will, as soon as I'm done talking, go through the questions and give answers. So if you have a question about something that I said that I didn't give enough detail about, or if there's something that you just see on the website that you'd like to ask a question about. So I'm going to walk through some of these resources. And the first resource I'm going to share is the new writing intensive course that many of you, if you are students, may be enrolled in. So the course Inquiry, Conversation, and Argument is the new first year writing course. So if you are a student coming in on the maroon track, you will be taking an ICA course. You will also be enrolled in a humanities section, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a bit. But the ICA course, Inquiry, Conversation, and Argument, this is the first course in Chicago's new model of complete four-year writing instruction. So as you see here on the homepage, one of the things that we celebrate and that we are known for is the Little Red Schoolhouse Intensive Writing Course. And that's a course where college students have to be in their third or fourth year as undergraduates, because we really do work on advanced writing and the way that experts use language to talk to other experts. What we're building out now is more of an all across the 4 years writing program. We're coming in, students are immediately placed into this intensive discussion-based, really how do you have intensive conversation with your peers about serious subjects in various fields and genres, and then also use language and writing to engage in that conversation and to invite other people to really engage seriously with your ideas and your arguments. So Inquiry, Conversation, Argument is the newest course that's being taught to first years by writing program staff and professors. Alongside that course, there will also be, beginning this autumn, dedicated tutors to work with students in ICA. So there are going to be ICA writing tutors who are there for the specific kind of writing assignments that you're going to be given in that course. I want to make very clear that we don't expect you to already have taken a course like this. We don't expect you to recognize and already be an expert in the kind of writing that you're going to be asked to do in this course. Instead, we encourage students, work with your professor, talk to your peers, go to your instructor's office hours. For your course, all of your instructors will offer office hours where you can take questions about the content, where you can take questions about your plans for your assignments, but also come see the ICA tutors. They're there to help you practice the close reading skills that you're going to be asked to use in your analytic essays. And they're there to be a thinking partner for your prospectus exercise, which you'll work on at the end of the class. So when you're presented with this big, daunting seeming thing, and that sort of 80 minutes per class period that you're with your peers and your instructor is not enough to really deep dive into all of your questions and do all that thinking. The ICA tutors are all students who have taken and successfully completed ICA and who have been endorsed by their instructors as students who have done so well that they would be a really great use for other students to lean on. So we encourage you to make use of the ICA tutor program in the autumn and to really use them as someone to bounce ideas off of and get feedback as you're working through what we know are a new kind of assignment for a lot of students. Alongside ICA, students will take a humanities course in their first year, and the writing program offers various kinds of support to help you with the writing component of that course. So if you're someone who's taking ICA, there won't be a dedicated writing section of your humanities course, you'll do that writing in ICA and you will use the ICA tutors for support. If you're someone who's on the gray track and you're not taking ICA right now, and if you want to see how we talk about this on the website, you can click on curriculum at the top of the page and you can look at the different courses and there's more information. But if you're someone who's on the gray track and you're taking the humanities course that has the writing seminar component, that's where you'll do your first year writing instruction. You'll have a dedicated writing specialist who's attached to your course. They will hold a series of writing seminars where they teach skills and deal with the specific writing assignments and the specific content in your section of the humanities core. So they will also have office hours. They will also work with you on your particular writing and give you feedback. They'll hold seminars geared to really helping you learn to write for college and write successfully in the particular course that you're in. So I encourage you to make good use of your relationship with your writing specialist. And then also, as Alyssa was saying, just like there are core tutors for the different subjects that you take in the first year core, there are also core writing tutors for the humanities and the social core classes that you take in your first couple of years. The core writing tutors are students who have specially trained with the University of Chicago writing program to master the writing skills and revision skills that we teach so that they can help students look at their own writing with a critical eye and make informed decisions about how to improve the clarity of their writing, the strength of their argument, the strength of their evidence, the match between their evidence and their analysis, and other things. So if you look under the writing support tab of our website, you'll see the different kinds of tutors that we offer and other resources that I'll get to. But on the writing tutor page, you scroll all the way down to the end of that page, and there are two buttons. You can book an actual appointment or you can join the drop-in list. So all of this will be active for the school year when you come back in the autumn. But if there's anyone on the meeting who's also taking summer classes, summer core classes, we are for this summer, for the first time, offering summer core tutors. So we're doing a pilot for this summer where if you are enrolled in a core class this summer, you are also invited to to work with a tutor on Monday or Thursday evening. And we will offer remote tutoring for this part of the summer where the courses are remote. We will offer either remote or in-person tutoring later in the summer when more students are actually taking in-person on-campus courses. So there is information under writing support on our website specifically about the summer tutoring program for those of you who can use that information right now. But the website will also be updated with dates, times, any additional detail as we move toward autumn so that all of the information that you need to work with tutors during the school year is also there. And then in your first year, the final resource is also a new resource, and these are writing coaches. These are the writing specific brother to the academic coaching program. Our writing coaches are all people who have formerly worked with as writing specialists. So these are people who for years have full-time been working with incoming U Chicago students in the humanities core. Now, the people who are going to be writing coaches have an even more expansive mission. The writing coaches are staff members who you can make appointments with, and these, whereas the humanities core writing tutors are there to work with you when you have a specific assignment that you want support with. You want to talk about your argument, you want to talk about what's in that text, you want to talk about how to respond to that prompt, and you want to learn revision skills to make each draft stronger and stronger and stronger up until your final draft that you're ready to turn in. That's when you go to the humanities core writing tutors. Same with the ICA tutors. When you have the analytic essay that's been assigned or you have the prospectus essay that's been assigned, and you really want someone to sit down with how you're working on that particular assignment and work with you on how to revise and strengthen each iteration of your assignment, you go to the ICA tutors. The writing coaches are there to really support your growth as a writer more broadly. So coming out of high school, everyone has a sense of where they are as a writer, what they want to improve, what's still tricky for them. As you're assigned things in college, you'll just have general questions about what instructors mean when they say certain things, or if you've only ever written a 5-paragraph essay, how do you even approach writing a 5 to 7 page paper? These are things that are perfect to take to the writing coaches. These are student-led appointments wherein you take your concerns, whether they have anything to do with a particular class or not, whether they have anything to do with a particular assignment or not, and you're talking about your relationship to writing and where you are in your journey as a writer. And the writing coaches are there to help you think through and develop the skills that you're going to need to grow as a writer over the next 4 years. So we encourage you to make use of them in your first year, but also, of course, in your second year as you're doing your social core, in your third year and your fourth year as you're approaching your BA thesis, and you're thinking about how to do more advanced kinds of writing than you were doing in your first and second year. Go to the writing coaches. They will also, and I believe there's one upcoming, it should be listed on our website under writing support. They will also offer workshops. So I believe there's one upcoming on deep reading skills and how to really read critically in a way that helps you retain information and use what you're reading to do better work and to do better writing. Finally, the last sort of resource that I want to make you aware of is the one that's showing on the screen right now. That is Little Red Schoolhouse. So as you grow as a writer, you'll hear a lot about when you're on campus, the Little Red Schoolhouse course, and this is our flagship course. It's the writing course that we're most known for at Chicago. Its official title is Academic and Professional Writing. It is affectionately known by all of us as Little Red Schoolhouse. But as you approach your third or fourth year, you can think about wanting to improve your writing to the point where you can actually write as an expert and a professional across any field. We have students from the humanities, from the social sciences, from the hard sciences. We have students who come to us from the law school, from the medical school. So we really do work with writers across fields. And the idea is just if you want to be someone who thinks intensively about how writing in the world works and how you earn the attention of discerning readers to really make a compelling point that you think is valuable and that you want other people to think is valuable. Little Red Schoolhouse is a course that you can build up to taking during your time at Chicago. And so that's a lot of information, but I just want to reiterate the primary supports that we offer come in the form of one-on-one tutoring and one-on-one coaching and or writing seminars. And so if you're taking ICA, I encourage you to reach out to and work with an ICA tutor when you're thinking through your assignments. As you're in the humanities core, I encourage you to sit down with a humanities core writing tutor. They also work with students in the social sciences core, so please also take advantage of them for those assignments. And then as you just think about sort of the kinds of writing assignments, the kinds of prompts that you're seeing, students have questions about prompts and what being asked to analyze or discuss or compare and contrast means at the college level. Those are normal questions, so don't shy away from taking those questions to your writing coaches and asking them just to help think through the skill of reading a prompt and discerning what the prompt is asking you to do. So all of these resources are there. They're all included in the cost of your tuition. You've already paid for them. There's no limit to the number of appointments or sessions you can have. For the tutors, we offer one session at a time. So you can make an appointment, see the tutor. The moment you walk out of that appointment, you're free to go online and make another appointment. You just can't hold, let's say, 2 or 3 appointments in reserve at the same time because we want them to be available to as many students as possible. But do make appointments, do come see them, and you'll see the map that Alyssa shared during her presentation. We're located in the same place. Those same cubicles that the academic coaches are in are the cubicles that the writing tutors are in. So there's a lovely cafe on the 3rd floor of Harper. It is not open in the summer, but it's open all school year. But you come into Harper and you come up to the 3rd floor. There's a cafe there. Once you're in the cafe, you're just steps away from where all of the academic coaching and writing goodness happens. So you can always come up to the 3rd floor and ask for directions if you're not immediately able to find it. So with that, I am going to turn to the Q&A and start answering some of those questions in the chat. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much to all of our presenters with us here today. We have a couple minutes left that we can do some Q&A. It looks like we got a few throughout. I know we had one for student disability services. A couple with do they need to already have a diagnosis to like come with that, or do you provide testing for people also who suspect they might have something?
Yes. So I think I answered this for somebody in the chat, but the we do not have folks who are qualified to diagnose or test at within our office. But if you don't have a diagnosis and you suspect that you might be eligible for accommodations, you might have a disability, and are interested in pursuing a diagnosis, you can reach out to our office, and we can connect you with some other folks internally and outside the university who might be able to help you find testing as well.
Awesome. Thank you. We also have a question here for academic coaching. Um, let's see, what does it say? I hope you already answered that question, but just as a reminder, when can first years start meeting with their coaches, and what is the best way for them to make contact or set up that appointment?
Is this for academic coaching or writing
Yes,
coaching?
sorry,
Oh, perfect.
academic.
Yeah, great. So incoming first year students can begin meeting with us for coaching appointments in September. Again, if this sounds like a resource that's going to be helpful for you and you're really enthusiastic about connecting with us, you can always send us an email with your initial questions or connect ahead of time before doing a first appointment. And then for incoming transfer students, you are able to connect with us and book an appointment in mid-August. But the same is true that if you'd like to reach out in advance, you're more than welcome to do so.
Perfect, thanks. Okay, and then I see here for the writing program, this person is asking if it's possible to connect with the writing coaches over the summer if they're not enrolled in any classes yet.
For the writing coaches, let me look into it. If they're not enrolled in summer courses, it may still be possible. I know that the coaches are also offering seminars. There are group seminars that different people hold on one second, can take. But if you look at the writing program website, the answer may already be there. I apologize for not having that, but we're literally just looking it for the first time right now. But what I would encourage you to do is if you see things on the website that you are interested in taking, for instance, that webinar or the seminar that they're offering, the workshop that they're offering, or you see the appointments launched, and you want to book one, you can always A, just try to book the appointment. And B, you can email the writing program directly, and the administrator who runs that program, who is in a meeting right now, which is why she cannot be to answer your questions. But we'll get back to you. And our email address is basically the same as the web address. It's writing-program@uchicago.edu. But that's a wonderful question. And I know that we want students to be taking advantage of the writing coaches as much as possible. So thank you for asking. And please do reach out about working with them as soon as possible.
Awesome, great. As we just have a couple of minutes left, I know you all probably have more questions. Please, if you have them, all of the offices and stuff are linked in the chat now for you all. Check out their websites. They all have contact info you can reach out to for more questions. You can also always reach out to the CPO, college-programming@uchicago.edu with any questions, and we will get you pointed in the right direction. And then final reminder, this webinar has been recorded. So within the next couple of days, you will be able to find this on our YouTube page, or you can find it through our orientation website. It will be linked there. Thank you again, everybody, for joining. And then just before we fully end this out, for any of my amazing co-hosts here on, if any of you have one tip or piece of advice for incoming students, what would you share with them?
I'll chime in first. I would say start early. The quarter system moves incredibly fast. And so, as you can see, there are different support services available to you. So please make use of them from the beginning and be prepared to get going in the fall because it will go fast.
I would say related to that, if there's help that you need, don't be afraid to ask for it. I think for a while, speaking an alum of the college myself, right? I know many folks, were used to maybe not needing as much support as maybe some of their friends did or some of their peers did in high school, and feeling like it somehow speaks to you as a student, right? If you need support, and that's really not the case. And I wish I had reached out for the supports I needed sooner at U Chicago, because it would have made my first year a lot, I think a lot smoother for me. So I always encourage folks to not be afraid to ask for the help and support that they need.
I would advise all incoming students to count your wins. A lot of students that I work with are very high achieving and have a perception that they're not doing as well as they objectively are doing. So count your wins. Don't forget that it is an exceptional thing that you are here, and go from that kind of growth mindset.
One, I would encourage everyone to take all of that advice because it's really good advice. And just generally ask every question that you have. This isn't writing specific, but there are no stupid questions. Most of the students will literally have just moved across the country and you've never been to college before. So you are allowed to not know exactly how this works. So please do ask questions. And if there's a kind of support, if there's something that you're struggling with, ask your advisor, ask someone. It's very, 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 very likely that the kind of support that you need exists and that you can get access to it if someone knows that you need it. So don't shy away from that. And then writing wise, I would just say do take advantage of the tutors. They're really wonderful students who have been where you are and who are literally doing this job because they are that excited to help other students succeed and thrive and do well. So not just because you feel like you're struggling and you don't know what you're doing, but even if you're someone who's just excited about a paper and you just want to sit down and talk it over with someone and make sure it makes sense, do take advantage of the writing tutors and the writing coaches and other resources.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I love that reminder to, use resources even if like when you're doing well, because that will also help you in those moments when you're struggling. I think the other main piece of advice I have is just, remember, it's your name on the transcript and eventually your diploma, but all learning and education is really collaborative and social. So, you know, just know you're not having to go it alone, even though it can feel that way at 2 a.m. at your desk. So just maybe.
Awesome. Thank you all again so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.